Many people doubt Meghan has long been a mother. Following her attendance at Northwestern University, Meghan began dating Joe Giuliano, and the couple got married after having a child when Meghan was almost 20.
Any truth to the talk of Meghan's ex Trevor writing a tell-all? It's like a soap opera. It never ends, from the US. I'm going to put it this way. I know one or two people who know Trevor Eggleston. Some better than others. And everybody says Trevor Eggleston is a fine person.
Joshua Silverstein was her very first boyfriend. They were both only 13.
I've been doing more and more digging in the alleged teen pregnancy, and the findings are shocking.
Picture this for a second. A relationship falling apart so fast that there's no sit-down talk, no late-night phone call, nothing. Just a ring, boxed up and sent off like a return package that didn't work out. That's reportedly how Trevor Eggleston realized things with Meghan Markle were done. Not through words, but through a delivery. Now, from the outside, some people saw that move as bold, even icy. But if you look a little closer, it hits different. Trevor wasn't just any ex. He was there before everything changed, before the royal spotlight, before the polished image, before the world started watching her every move. He knew a version of Meghan that most people have never seen. And here's where things start getting interesting, because according to ongoing chatter, Trevor might not just be holding on to memories of a failed marriage. Some believe he knows details from a chapter of Meghan's life that doesn't really get talked about, a chapter that doesn't quite match the story people think they know.
Information came direct from Meghan's ex-husband, Trevor Eggleston, via an intermediary. And obviously Trevor Eggleston is a very successful TV producer. He now has his own family. He's very happy.
Given her appearance, Noelle does share some similarities with Joe and Meghan, and she's even more like Meghan.
Back in the day, Trevor was part of her journey when she was still trying to make it. No major fame, no global attention, just audition setbacks and big dreams. He saw the drive, the determination, the hustle. But insiders have hinted that he may have also seen moments that didn't line up with the carefully shaped public image that came later. There's been talk for years about a certain period in Meghan's earlier life that feels unclear. Not missing exactly, but not fully explained either. We're talking about the late 90s, a time when most people are focused on school, friends, and figuring life out. But in Meghan's case, the details from those years seem a bit scattered, mostly described as travel or personal growth. Still, some rumors suggest there might have been more going on behind the scenes. One name that occasionally comes up in these conversations is Joe Giuliano. Not a celebrity, not someone from the spotlight, just someone said to be connected to her earlier years. And according to speculation, there may have been a short-lived relationship that went further than most people realize. Some versions of the story claim that a very young Meghan may have made a quick, private decision in Las Vegas. Something impulsive, something that didn't last long. The idea is that it was handled quietly, possibly undone just as quickly, and never became part of her public narrative.
I've been doing more and more digging in the alleged teen pregnancy, and the findings are shocking. Both Camilla and side-eyeing Catherine. And so there's a lot going on. And of course, we have Prince William. Prince William, he's been horribly criticized right now because he didn't wait for Charles to finish his speech. He just sat down. He didn't even clap his hands. He just sat down. And people are saying, oh, he ignored protocol. William, His Royal Highness Prince William, is the protocol. Now, Meghan Markle, we've all seen the picture of Meghan Markle when she was a teen. Well, Sean Johnson did an interview. And in the interview, he did it because he couldn't get a hold of Meghan Markle nor Doria Ragland. Because one thing is curious. He does mention that she looked pregnant in the article. But he says that's me standing with her, but he doesn't deny it.
Now, to be clear, this is all based on rumors and conversations that haven't been confirmed. But people keep bringing it up, which is why it keeps resurfacing. And it doesn't stop there, because alongside that story, there have also been whispers about someone named Noel. According to speculation, this person would have been born years ago and raised away from any spotlight. The claims suggest a life kept completely private. far from media attention or public discussion. If you compare this to the official timeline that's widely known, some people point out gaps or quieter periods where details are limited. While some say those years were about studying or traveling, others question if there was more happening behind the scenes. Again, nothing here is confirmed. It's all part of ongoing talk that continues to circulate. But if even a small part of these claims were true, it would definitely shift how people view the story as a whole. Not rewrite it completely, but add layers that most didn't expect. And here's the thing. Time keeps moving. If someone like Noel actually exists, based on the timeline people speculate about, they would be an adult today. Which raises even more questions that people online keep debating. And that's where things really start to get complicated. Because stories like this don't just disappear, no matter how quiet they've been kept. Now here's where the story takes an even wilder turn.
I've met a couple times her ex-husband. I'm sure
Meghan's?
Yes, I met him like personally. We were supposed a while.
Somebody set you up.
We met in the lobby of the Soho House in Chicago and just sort of like flirted and then started talking and then met once in LA. Very briefly, we talked about doing a project. He said his ex was a woman from a show called Suits. I didn't know what the show was. I didn't know the woman. Months later, I see pictures in Us Weekly of Harry's dating someone, and I text him to be like, is this your ex? And he's like, yup. And I'm like, I go, you think she's going to close? And he's like, oh, she'll close. And I don't want to get into more about that, but he was like, she'll close.
Because recent chatter online suggests that this rumored daughter may have already started a family of her own. If that timeline actually adds up, people are saying Meghan Markle wouldn't just be a mother to Archie and Lilibet, and she could technically be a grandmother too. That idea alone has people doing a double take. Think about the contrast for a second. On one side, you've got the public image, the interviews, the podcasts, the whole modern motherhood vibe being shared with the world. But on the other side, there are claims floating around that suggest there could be an entirely separate part of her life that's never been acknowledged. That's the part that keeps people talking. And right in the middle of all this speculation stands Trevor Engelson. For years, he's been known as the ex who kept things quiet. No explosive interviews, no tell-all drama, nothing loud. And that's interesting because, reportedly, he's had plenty of chances to speak out. There have been claims that major offers came his way. Book deals, exclusive interviews, big money opportunities, but he didn't jump on them. So naturally, people started asking, why stay silent? Some believe it's about keeping things respectful. Others think he's just waiting for the perfect moment. But then there's another angle people can't ignore. The idea that his silence actually gives him more control than speaking ever could. Trevor was there during a key period of Meghan's life. He didn't just see the surface-level changes. He was around while things were shifting behind the scenes.
Right now we're in Beverly Hills, and we're going to pass the Beverly Hilton Hotel, where I'll be on Sunday meeting the other...
What Trevor said to Bethany Frankel about how Meghan was going to snare Harry when they first met. Absolutely fascinating.
He's moved on. He has put Meghan behind him. He probably is not interested in people bringing up his past relationship. He has 3 children now with his...
According to some reports and commentary, he may have even witnessed how carefully certain goals were being planned out. And this is where that vision board story comes into play again. There have been claims, even repeated by media voices like Megyn Kelly, suggesting that Meghan once had a board mapping out her future, and that it included Prince Harry long before they officially crossed paths. Now, whether people believe that or not, it definitely adds another layer to the conversation. Because if that idea holds any weight, it changes how people look at the whole situation. Instead of everything being spontaneous, it starts to feel more intentional, more structured, not just chasing fame, but aiming for something much bigger. The theory goes that building a powerful public image requires a very clean narrative, one that fits perfectly without complications or unanswered questions. And that's where critics start connecting dots, especially when older rumors resurface. Because here's the reality. Even if parts of someone's past are kept private, the people connected to those moments still exist. Old friends, neighbors, classmates. They remember things. And according to ongoing chatter, some individuals linked to those earlier years have started speaking more openly. There are claims from people in Chicago who describe a young woman who reportedly resembled Meghan, similar features, similar energy, someone who was present at gatherings but never fully explained, not introduced in a clear way, just there. Now again, none of this has been confirmed, and it's all based on speculation and personal accounts. But the consistency of these stories is what keeps fueling the discussion. Some people interpret this narrative as a story of reinvention, leaving certain chapters behind to move forward. Others see it as something more complicated, raising questions about what gets shared publicly versus what stays hidden. And then there's Trevor's position in all of this, because according to rumors, he could have access to personal details from their time together, messages, memories, moments that paint a clearer timeline of how everything unfolded. Whether that's true or not, it adds to the mystery around why he's stayed so quiet.
And a thoroughly decent and upstanding man who is very happily married to his second wife, who is the daughter of a billionaire. He is also far more successful in Hollywood than Meghan ever was or ever will be, despite her hustling, bustling, pushing, and dushing. It's not worked for her. She isn't star quality, and no matter how much noise she makes, and how much she says, I'm just fabulous, look at my Barracuda teeth! Sorry, my fabulous Colgate smile! People say, no, actually you were right the first time around, Meghan. They're Barracuda teeth. They're not a fabulous Colgate smile. What possible incentive would Trevor Engelson have to strip himself of his dignity? Which is what he would be doing.
Because if he ever did decide to speak, people believe it wouldn't just be about their relationship ending. It could reshape how the entire story is viewed. But maybe the most talked about part of this whole situation is the emotional angle people imagine. The idea of someone like Noel, if she exists, watching everything from a distance, seeing headlines, interviews, praise, all while remaining completely outside of that public narrative. It's a thought that keeps coming up in conversations online. Because stories like this don't just raise questions about facts, they hit on identity, family, and what gets left unsaid. And here's the part that people can't stop talking about, because situations like this don't just fade away quietly. If someone like Noel really exists, and especially if she now has a family of her own, the conversation shifts in a big way. This wouldn't just be about the past anymore, it becomes about the future, too. Think about it. If there are children involved in that next generation, questions about identity and family history naturally come up. And that's where the pressure would grow fast. Because now it's not just about keeping something private, it's about whether that story stays hidden or eventually comes to light.
According to reports, Noel was born in or around 1999, which fits the timeline perfectly.
Have you discussed it with your father, Thomas?
Yeah, he said the same. He said the same thing. I don't believe, and he doesn't believe that there are kids, because you don't yank around and use alleged children as pawns so much. We're only going to let you see our children if you behave in a certain way, and we can control the landscape. I mean, it was like really sick and contrived. And I think he got to the point where, excuse my French, BS. This is not how you treat human beings about something so special and so important as family, whether it's the line of succession or genealogy and the ability to see, quote, grandchildren before you pass away. A lot of family members want that. It's just to be able to have a point of reference, write something down in the family memoirs that, here's another addition to the family. So I think it's been a very cruel game, and I think he accepts it. And he even said, we've seen this much of this kid.
Some online discussions even suggest that managing a situation like that would be incredibly difficult, especially at the level of global attention Meghan Markle has. The public image has always been carefully presented, from Hollywood beginnings to royal life, and that transformation has been framed as a major success story. But critics argue that when you look deeper, it starts to feel more like a carefully controlled narrative, rather than something that unfolded naturally. Every step, every connection, every public moment, and all seen by some as part of a bigger plan. And that comparison people keep bringing up, it goes right back to that moment with the ring being sent back. To them, it symbolizes a pattern, Quick decisions, clean breaks, and moving forward without looking back. But here's the thing. No matter how much someone tries to close certain chapters, the people connected to those moments are still out there. And stories have a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. Whether it's Trevor Engelson choosing to speak one day, or others from the past deciding to share what they remember, the idea is the same. Silence doesn't always last forever. And right now, you can feel that shift happening. Conversations are getting louder, theories are spreading wider, and more people are starting to question the picture they've been shown. Not necessarily rejecting it completely, but definitely looking at it with a more critical eye. While headlines often focus on royal tensions or media drama, some believe the deeper story is about something else entirely: ambition, reinvention, and the costs that can come with both. Because trying to move forward while leaving parts of your history behind isn't always simple. The past doesn't just disappear. It stays connected through people, through memories, through moments that others experience too.
Whom he treated with great love and great respect, and indulged her and was totally committed to the relationship from when she first picked him up and chose him. As her father has pointed out, Meghan has always chosen the men that she ended up with. Remember, she evidently is the one who suggested that she would be perfect for Harry. Yeah. Well, why would Trevor Engelson be writing a book that would strip him of his dignity? I don't think he will ever write a book that would strip him of his dignity. I think, although she thought he wasn't suave enough, sophisticated enough, together enough, because he wasn't pretentious like her, she thought he wasn't classy enough because he was very immediate and he was very authentic.
And that's where Trevor's role keeps coming back into the conversation. He doesn't have to be seen as the bad guy in any of this. If anything, people view him as someone who simply witnessed a version of events that hasn't been fully shared. If he ever chose to speak, the impact wouldn't just be about their relationship ending. It could add context to everything that came before and after. That's why his silence continues to stand out. Meanwhile, the curiosity from the public keeps building. People want answers about those earlier years. They want clarity on the rumors that refuse to go away. And more than anything, they want to understand how all these pieces fit together. There's also a strong emotional angle that keeps coming up in discussions. The idea of someone potentially watching all of this unfold from a distance, seeing the interviews, the recognition, the praise, while their own connection to that story remains unspoken. It's that contrast that really sticks with people. Now, if any part of the rumored timeline involving a past relationship or a hidden family were ever confirmed, the impact wouldn't just be personal. It could raise serious questions about how such details were handled at a much larger level. Some even say it would shift the entire narrative. Instead of focusing on outside pressures, the conversation would turn inward, toward choices, decisions, and what may or may not have been left out along the way. And through all of this, one thing keeps coming up. You can move forward, you can rebuild, you can reshape your story. But the past doesn't completely vanish. The people, the places, the moments, they all still exist somewhere. And as long as they do, there will always be questions waiting to be answered. That's why this story continues to gain attention, not because everything is proven, but because the possibilities alone are enough to keep the conversation going strong.
As you know, I've received many emails from the California State Department of Birth Records saying that they can't find such a record. However, my latest email request and the response they gave me, it's gonna blow your mind away. Because, I mean, it could all be a coincidence, of course, you know. There could be two Meghan Markles on Earth. You know, it's, after all, she's not that special at all, unlike what she thinks.
Trevor Engelson staying quiet for so long. That's been seen by many as a kind of protection, almost like a shield. But here's the thing. shields don't last forever. And if that silence ever breaks, people believe the impact wouldn't come from tabloids or random headlines. It would come from someone who was actually there, finally choosing to speak up. And here's where the irony really stands out. Meghan Markle has spent years building her voice, sharing her story, stepping into the spotlight again and again. But some people are starting to say that this same openness might be what brings extra attention to the parts of her life she would rather keep private. Because once you invite the world in, people don't just focus on what's presented. They start asking about what isn't being shown too. That's just how it goes. You can't fully control where the spotlight lands, especially when curiosity kicks in. Now, conversations online have shifted big time. Topics like the rumored daughter, the possibility of a new generation, even that vision board story. They've all become major talking points. Not confirmed facts, but definitely subjects people keep circling back to. Some are even framing this as a deeper look into reinvention, asking whether it's possible to completely reshape your story without parts of the past catching up eventually. That's the bigger question underneath all the noise. And right in the middle of it all is Trevor again. His name keeps coming up because he represents that connection between two different phases, the earlier life and the public version people see today. Whether he ever speaks or not, his presence alone keeps that link alive. People see him as someone who witnessed the transition up close. Not from headlines, not from interviews, but in real time.
And the one thing that a true foodie finds offensive above all else is authenticity. Because it really grates on them. Especially when they move up in the world the way she did. Because remember once she moved to Toronto, all of a sudden, well, I'm mixing with a better class of person, but I don't think we can bother with that one anymore. No. He was a step up, but I have a few more steps on this ladder to climb, and his ladder ends there. No. Send back those rings. It is extremely mortifying when you have to publicly address matters that are private and humiliating, and you would much rather they had never been exposed or addressed at all, except privately and quietly. I don't think he's ever going to do that. The people I know who know him think he will never, ever do any such thing. So, I hope that answers the question.
And that's why his silence continues to stand out so much. There's also this growing idea that the past isn't something you can fully leave behind. You can move forward, build something new, change direction, but those earlier chapters don't just disappear. They stay tied to people, to places, to memories that others still carry. And as these discussions keep building, more attention is being placed on names that have come up in the rumors. Noel, Joe Giuliano, and the early connections that people claim haven't been fully explained. Again, nothing confirmed, but definitely not going away either. What makes this situation so different is that it's no longer just about celebrity gossip. People are treating it like a puzzle, trying to piece together timelines, connect details, and understand what might be missing from the bigger picture. At the same time, there's also a reminder here. Stories can be shaped, narratives can be guided, but completely erasing something, that's a lot harder, especially over time. Because in today's world, information doesn't just vanish. There are always traces, whether it's old records, shared memories, or people who remember things differently. And as more conversations happen, those small details start stacking up. Some discussions even suggest that if these rumors continue gaining traction, it could reach a point where it's impossible to ignore. Not because everything is proven, but because the volume of questions becomes too loud. And once that happens, even the strongest public image would face serious pressure. Not necessarily collapse, but definitely be challenged in a way it hasn't been before. Through all of this, Trevor Engelson is still seen by many as holding a key perspective. Not because he's spoken out, but because he hasn't. That silence keeps people wondering what he might know, what he might have seen, and what he might choose to share one day. If that moment ever comes, people believe it wouldn't just be another headline. It would shift the entire conversation. There's also a bigger question here. Why are so many people so drawn to this story in the first place? Maybe it's not just about Meghan Markle. Maybe it's about something more relatable, the idea of identity. reinvention, and the parts of our lives we choose to show versus the ones we don't.
I remember when she was born, big new addition to the family, and we just have a very young sister here.
Thomas Jr. was 14 when Meghan came into the world.
Clear to me at the time that, we were together, I would say. Yeah, she had a very clear idea of where she wanted her path to take.
Because at the end of the day, no matter how polished the image is, people are always curious about the full story. And that curiosity, it's what keeps conversations like this going strong. Maybe that's why this whole situation hits people the way it does. Because let's be real, everyone has parts of their past they'd rather not revisit. But what's being talked about here goes way beyond that. The idea of completely cutting off entire chapters of life, relationships, connections, even family, just to build a new image. That's what has people locked in on this story. Some online discussions even frame it like this. When the image becomes more important than reality, what happens when that image starts to crack? Because once it does, everything underneath gets questioned. And that's why the rumors around Noel keep pulling attention. Not because they're confirmed, but because of what they represent. People are looking at it as more than just gossip. They're seeing it as a story about choices, consequences, and the parts of life that don't just disappear. If someone like Noel truly exists, then the conversation shifts into something deeper. It becomes about missed connections, about voices that may not have been heard, and about how far someone might go to reshape their own story. That's the angle that keeps people talking. And now, with talk of a new generation possibly involved, the pressure only grows. Because at some point, questions don't just stay online, they start demanding real answers. There's also this feeling building that silence can't last forever.
At the time, that we were together, it's what kids did, right? So she told her friends she liked me. I told my friends I liked her. And then our friends met and then they kind of arranged it. And then we became girlfriend and boyfriend.
Meghan, she loved me. I'm a hero. And suddenly I was thrown out.
Whether it's Trevor Engelson, people connected to the past, or someone else entirely, many believe that eventually more pieces of the story could come out. Maybe through an interview, maybe through documents, maybe in ways no one expects. And if that moment ever happens, it wouldn't just be another headline. It would completely shift how everything is seen. Because right now, what people are watching is a contrast. The public story versus the rumored one. The polished version versus the one still being questioned. And that contrast, that's what's driving all the attention. At its core, this isn't just about Meghan Markle, it's about identity, reinvention, and whether it's truly possible to leave the past behind without it catching up later. That's the bigger picture people keep coming back to. And as more conversations happen, more opinions form, and more curiosity builds. One thing is clear. This story isn't slowing down anytime soon. So what do you think about all of this? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over. And if you want more deep dives into stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen right now for more celebrity drama you won't want to miss. Catch you in the next one.